I was 13 when my mom sat across from a family friend at our dinner table and said, "If any of my kids end up a disappointment, it'll be her." She didn't say it in anger. She said it like a weather report. Come. Factual. My brother said nothing. My dad looked at his plate. And me? I blinked once, smiled tightly, and chewed my food like her words hadn't just gutted me. That was the moment I understood my place in our family. They loved winners. Shiny, loud, athletic boys with big laughs and medals to prove they mattered. My older brother played soccer. My younger brother won math competitions. My mom posted about them constantly. She printed their awards, threw parties, framed certificates. Meanwhile, when I brought home a hand-drawn sketch or wrote a short story, she'd glance at it and say, "You're wasting time. That stuff won't pay bills." When I got a B+, she'd raise an eyebrow and ask why it wasn't an A. When I stayed quiet at family events, she'd smile apologetically and say, "She's just, a little different." Different. Disappointment. Invisible. That was me. Dad never said anything cruel. But silence has its own sting. When I didn't get into my first choice school, he didn't hug me. He just shrugged and said, "Well, your brothers didn't need special programs. Maybe try something more realistic." When I once asked for therapy because I was spiraling into anxiety and insomnia, my mom scoffed and said, "You don't need therapy. You need structure and a job." So I stopped asking. Instead, I built a world where I mattered. In secret. By the time I was 15, I was teaching myself digital design on borrowed library computers. I watched YouTube tutorials at night while everyone slept. I started freelancing under a fake name when I was 17. I saved every dollar I could. And when I turned 18, I applied to a design institute far from home. I didn't tell anyone. Not until I got my acceptance letter and scholarship. When I finally told them, my mom actually laughed. "You're going to leave this house for art school? What are you going to do, draw cartoons for a living?" My dad just said, "Don't ask us for money." I didn't. I packed my bag, left the house quietly, and promised myself one thing. If I ever made it, they would never get to rewrite history. I worked like my life depended on it. Because it did. I wasn't just building a career. I was digging myself out of a grave they'd already buried me in. I learned UX, branding, animation, pitch strategy. I interned at an agency by day and freelanced by night. I was broke, tired, lonely, but I was free. By 25, I had clients across 3 continents. By 28, I had my own creative agency. By 30, I bought a building and moved my team into a sleek new office downtown. Not once did anyone in my family ask how I was doing. They didn't know I had staff. That I spoke at conferences. That I had my name on the wall of a company people respected. And I was fine with that. Because I didn't need their recognition. Until one day, recognition came to me. It started with an email. I was sorting through incoming job applications when I saw a name that made me freeze. Benjamin A. My father. At first, I thought it was a mistake. I opened the resume. Same full name. Same number. Same man who'd once told me I needed to be more like my brothers. He was applying for a senior project manager role. I read through his cover letter twice. Apparently, he'd been laid off due to industry downsizing and had been struggling to find work. And now, unknowingly, he was asking for a job at my company. Not a client. Not a partner. Me. His invisible daughter. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Then I smiled. I didn't reject him. I scheduled an interview, under my COO's name. When he walked into the office that morning, I was watching from the surveillance feed in the adjacent room. He wore a slightly wrinkled button-up, carried an old briefcase, looked 10 years older than I remembered. He sat down, drank the water offered to him, and started explaining how project leadership runs in the family. He never once mentioned me. The interview ended with polite promises of a second round. He left. I printed his resume and slid it into my desk drawer. That night, I thought long and hard about what I wanted. I didn't want to humiliate him. Not really. What I wanted was for them to see me. The version of me they tried so hard to ignore. So I arranged a little meeting. I invited my parents and both my brothers under the guise of a business opportunity. I told them it was a pitch meeting for a growing brand that needed family-oriented faces for a campaign. Of course they came. Especially my mother. She wore her best outfit. My father brought his resume again. They walked into my office suite and froze. My company name, my full name, was etched into the glass wall behind reception. Photos of me with high-profile clients were framed and displayed. Magazine covers. Branding mock-ups. Design awards. They sat in silence as I walked into the conference room. My mom's face twitched. My dad blinked too fast. "Welcome," I said. "Let me introduce myself properly. I'm the CEO." My mom recovered first. She let out a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Why didn't you tell us? We would have supported." I cut her off. "You would have told me to quit. Like you did when I got accepted." No one said a word. I turned to my dad. "So, about that job application. Do you want to proceed with the interview?" He opened his mouth. Closed it. I smiled. "Actually, never mind. We've filled the position." They left that day quieter than I've ever seen them. I don't hate them. I've forgiven them, at least enough to move on. But I'll never forget what it felt like to watch them realize that the girl they wrote off as a disappointment was the one holding all the power now. They didn't talk to me for 2 weeks after that meeting. No calls. No messages. Not even a passive-aggressive email. I expected rage. A tantrum. Maybe even a guilt trip. But what I got was worse. Silence. That same cold, dismissive silence I grew up with. The kind that said, "You embarrassed us, so we're pretending you don't exist again." And honestly, it didn't sting the way it used to. I'd been living without their approval for so long that their absence felt like background noise. But then, my mother showed up. She didn't call ahead. She just appeared at my office on a Wednesday morning like she was coming to collect a forgotten sweater. Security buzzed me. I told them to let her in. She walked in with her hair done, her lips tight, and her purse clutched like a shield. "Alora," she said, smiling like we were old friends, "you've really done well for yourself." I said nothing. I just motioned toward the seating area. She didn't sit. "You blindsided us," she said. "You humiliated your father. He didn't deserve that." I let her words hang in the air. She looked around the room, at the awards, the glass office, the sleek furniture. "You should have told us. We would have been proud." I tilted my head. "Would you?" She blinked. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," I said calmly, "that I spent my entire childhood trying to earn your respect. And you made it very clear that I wasn't worth it. You only care now because I'm successful. Not because you believe in me." "That's not true," she said. We thought you needed direction." "No. You thought I needed to be like them. I wasn't. So you gave up." She opened her mouth to defend herself, then closed it. For the first time in my life I saw it. Shame. She left without another word. That same night, my father called. His voice was quiet. Deflated. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't know all of this. I'm proud of you, Alora." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But I also remembered being 13 and hearing him say nothing while my mother told a room full of people I'd be the failure of the family. I told him I appreciated the call. I didn't say much else. But that's when the shift began. Because apparently, word was getting out. A client had posted a behind-the-scenes video of our agency during a brand shoot. It went semi-viral. My name was tagged. My face, once erased from every family picture frame, was now plastered across Instagram feeds and business articles. My youngest brother, Jason, messaged me out of the blue. "Yo, this your company? This is sick. Can I talk to you about some marketing stuff I'm doing for a brand?" I stared at the message for a full minute. "No, how have you been?" "No, sorry for treating you like you didn't exist for 10 years. Just a casual, hey, now that you're useful, can I get something?" I didn't respond. 3 days later, he messaged again. "Hello? You serious right now?" I blocked him. Then came my older brother, Daniel. His message was more professional. Polite. Almost apologetic. "Hey, I just wanted to say congrats. I had no idea you were doing so well. Mom and Dad didn't really talk about it. I'm genuinely proud of you. Would love to catch up if you're open to it. That one stung a little less. Daniel and I were never close, but he never mocked me. He was just busy being the golden child. And honestly, he was a bit softer than the others. I replied with a simple, thanks. Hope you're doing well too. And left it at that. But it was clear now. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was relevant. And my family didn't know how to handle that. 2 weeks later, I got another surprise. My parents showed up at my office again. Together this time. Security buzzed me. I stared at the screen. Thought about ignoring it. But curiosity won. I let them in. They were both dressed like they were going to church. My mom clutched her purse again. My dad looked like he hadn't slept. We just want to talk, he said. I nodded. We're proud of you, my mom said first. You've done more than we ever expected. I know, I said. She frowned. You don't have to be cold. I'm not being cold. I'm being honest. I don't owe you warmth you never gave me. My dad stepped forward. Look, I messed up. We both did. We saw what we wanted to see. And I know we made you feel like you weren't enough. But you were. You are. We're sorry. Silence. I wanted to yell. I wanted to cry. I wanted to tell them to leave and never come back. But I didn't. Instead I asked, why now? He looked down. Because I need a job. I'm not too proud to admit it anymore. And I'd rather work under my daughter than beg strangers. Ah, there it was. I wasn't just the daughter anymore. I was a lifeline. I stared at them. The mother who called me a disappointment. The father who never defended me. Now standing in front of me like applicants. Nervous. Ashamed. I told them to sit. Then I pulled out a printed version of my father's resume. It was decent. But not current. I can't hire you for a management position, I said. You're out of the field too long. But I can get you in on a 6-month contract. Junior level. You'll report to someone half your age. He nodded quickly. That's fine. And it won't be easy. I won't protect you from expectations. You'll be treated like any other staff. I understand, he said. I turned to my mom. You're not here for a job. So what do you want? She hesitated. To fix this. You can't, I said. But you can start by listening. And so she did. For the next hour, I told her things I never said as a child. How it felt to be erased. How I stopped drawing for years because of her words. How I taught myself to believe in my own voice because no one else would. She cried. Not performatively. Genuinely. And for the first time, I let her. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if we'll ever have the kind of relationship I once dreamed of. The truth is, I don't need them to validate me anymore. But I'm no longer angry. Because I didn't just rise. I became undeniable. And the best part? They had front row seats. My father started work the following Monday. He showed up 10 minutes early, dressed in a suit that didn't quite fit, holding a lunchbox like he was a high school teacher on his first day back. I watched from my office window as he stood awkwardly by the front desk, waiting for his assigned team lead to come get him. I didn't greet him. He wasn't here as my father. He was a junior project associate now, working under one of my sharpest, youngest managers. Her name was Kiera. She was 27, confident, strict, and had no idea he was my dad. And I didn't tell her. I didn't want anyone to treat him differently. No special favors. No warnings. Just the same pressure everyone else carried when they walked through that glass door with my logo on the wall. The first week passed quietly. He completed onboarding. Watched training videos. Attended team briefings. Shadowed younger staff who had to show him how to use the project management software. And I didn't step in. Not once. On Friday, Kiera popped into my office. Hey, she said, sitting down with a curious look. New guy, Ben A. He's trying. I raised a brow. Trying. Yeah. He's respectful. Eager. But definitely rusty. He takes longer on deliverables. Sometimes double-check simple tools. I think he hasn't worked with a modern interface in a long time. I nodded. Do you think he'll survive the probation? She shrugged. Hard to say. But he's not lazy. He stays late. Says, thank you, every time I explain something. I think he's trying to prove something. That last part stayed with me. Because I knew exactly what he was trying to prove. The second week, he sent me an email. Subject: thank you. I clicked it open. Alora. I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. I know I don't deserve it based on how I treated you growing up. I'm trying to do better. Not just at work, but as your father. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I see you now. Truly. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply. The truth is, I didn't know how I felt. There was a time when I would have done anything to hear those words. But now, they landed with less impact than I expected. Because after years of silence, the apology felt like a whisper shouted into a canyon. Too late. Too far. Too hollow. Still, I didn't fire him. And he didn't quit. Instead, he kept showing up, every morning without fail. Every task done on time, even if it took him twice as long. Every correction accepted without ego. Every team meeting attended with notes in hand. By the end of the first month, Kiara came to me again. I think he's improving, she said. Not fast but steadily. He's humble. You don't see that much. I nodded again. Then she paused. Can I ask you something weird? I looked up. Sure. She smirked. Is he related to you? I felt my throat tighten. Why? Because he compliments your leadership every other day. He said you built something incredible and that the team's lucky to learn from you. Just sounded personal. I kept my face neutral. We've met before. That's all. She didn't push. The truth was starting to show. Around that time, I got a text from my mother. Just 3 words. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Because I knew what she wanted. A door back in. A second chance. Maybe even a seat at the table she once swore I'd never reach. But forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a long hallway with locked rooms. And she hadn't earned the key yet. Still, she tried. She started commenting on my social media posts, things she used to ignore. So proud of you. My brilliant daughter. Look how far she's come. She was trying to rebrand herself as the supportive mother who always believed in me. But the internet forgets nothing. There were people who remembered her silence. People who remembered how she used to speak about me at church, at school events, at family gatherings. People who messaged me and said, "Funny how now she's claiming you, huh?" I didn't respond publicly. I didn't correct her. I didn't shame her either. I let her spin her own fantasy. Because eventually, that kind of mask slips on its own. Meanwhile, my dad was now 3 months into the job. He'd gone from fumbling through software to managing his own small internal project. A mock rebranding pitch for a small business. It wasn't huge. But it was his. And one afternoon, as I was leaving the office late, I saw him in the break room, standing with a younger designer, explaining an idea for a storyboard. His eyes lit up. His hands moved as he spoke. For the first time in forever, I saw him not as my father, but as a man trying to rebuild his dignity. He saw me in the doorway. We locked eyes. He gave me a nod. Just a small one. And I nodded back. I don't know what that meant. Not exactly. But I felt something shift. Not forgiveness. But maybe respect. Weeks passed. He completed the probation. Kiara gave him a cautious green light. He's not flashy but he's reliable, she said. And that counts. I approved his contract extension. But I also added a condition. No family lunches, no using our personal history for leverage, no bringing my name into team decisions. He agreed. One night, he sent another message. I'll respect whatever boundary you need. I just hope one day we can have dinner. No pressure. No expectations. I stared at the message. I thought about the years of neglect. The birthdays missed. The tears I swallowed alone. And I still didn't reply. But I didn't block him either. I left the door slightly ajar. Maybe that's the best I can do. Maybe sometimes, Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about recognition. And sometimes, the loudest revenge of all is quiet dignity. It started with a tag on Facebook. One of those proud mom posts. A photo of me at a tech summit, standing on stage next to two industry legends, holding a mic and smiling. Confident, composed, everything my mother once said I'd never be. Her caption read, "That's my baby girl. I always knew she'd be a star. She gets it from me." Hashtag proud mama, hashtag boss lady, hashtag my daughter the SEO. The comments flooded in from people she hadn't spoken to in years. "Wow, that's your daughter? Incredible. You must be so proud. She's such an inspiration." And instead of correcting them, she basked in it. She replied to every comment like she'd been my biggest fan all along. I stared at the post for a full 5 minutes, scrolling through her lies. There was no mention of how she told me art was a waste of time. No mention of how she laughed when I said I was leaving for design school. No mention of how she once told me, "You'll never be successful. That's just not how you're wired." Now, suddenly, she was my biggest cheerleader? At first, I ignored it. Then I got a message from an old classmate. "Hey, saw your mom's post. Didn't realize she was so involved in your career." I replied with a simple, "She wasn't." But that wasn't the last of it. She started tagging me in everything. Old childhood photos. Quotes about strong women. Random reposts of my company's achievements, with captions like, "Hard work and good parenting pays off." Good parenting. I wanted to scream. Instead, I unfollowed her. I thought maybe she'd take the hint. Instead, she doubled down. The next Sunday, during church service, yes, church, she stood up during community announcements and said, "Please keep my daughter in your prayers as she expands her business globally. We're so proud of her. She's proof that strong families build strong futures." People clapped. I wasn't even there, and I could feel the applause like a slap. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I didn't want to give her the drama she seemed to crave. But I started watching. Every week it was something new. She inserted herself into interviews I never gave her permission to comment on. She told her friends she was my brand mentor. She even started pitching herself as a parenting coach on WhatsApp groups, talking about how she raised a CEO in a tech world. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so revolting. One of my clients forwarded me a flyer. It had my photo on it. And next to it, my mother's face. Raising Leaders, a mother-daughter success story. Guest speaker, Elizabeth A. I felt my blood boil. She hadn't asked for permission. Hadn't even told me about the event. It was a women's empowerment brunch hosted by a local non-profit. She'd volunteered herself as a guest speaker and told them I'd show up for the Q&A with her. I emailed the organizer instantly. I told her I would not be attending. I told her my mother's story was fictional. That she did not support me from day one. That her parenting style was more about silence and sabotage than nurturing and growth. The organizer was mortified. She apologized, canceled my mother's segment, and removed all promotional materials. And then, my mother called. I ignored the first 3 times. But on the 4th ring, I picked up. "Why would you do that?" she said, not even bothering to say hello. "I could ask you the same. You embarrassed me. In front of everyone." I laughed bitterly. "Now you know how it feels. I was just trying to fix things. Isn't that what you want?" "No," I said coldly. What I wanted was a mother who believed in me when it counted. Not one who clings to my spotlight now that it finally shines. She fell silent. "You don't get to rewrite the past just because I turned out okay," I added. Her voice softened. Desperate. "But people listen to me now. They listen when I talk about you. Doesn't that help you? It's publicity. I don't need your kind of publicity." "You're still bitter." "No," I said. "I'm finally at peace. You're the one who's bitter that I made it without you." She hung up. And this time, the silence felt like closure. That week, my father asked if he could take me to lunch. I agreed. We sat outside a quiet cafe near the office. He ordered tea. I didn't touch my drink. He cleared his throat. "Your mother's been spiraling." I shrugged. "She's reaping what she sowed. She's embarrassed. She should be." He nodded. For what it's worth, I think she knows she lost something she can't get back. I looked at him. She didn't lose me because I succeeded. She lost me because she never tried to keep me when I was struggling. He exhaled. I can't fix what happened. But I can be better. Now. I studied him. There was sincerity in his eyes. And exhaustion. Like he'd been carrying a truth he never knew how to say. I believed him. But I also believed in boundaries. I don't want a perfect parent, I said. I just want honesty. Consistency. If you can give me that, we'll see. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. We paid. We walked. We didn't hug. But something in the air between us softened. It's strange how life twists. How the same people who buried you with words eventually come crawling back with flowers, pretending they planted the garden. I didn't need my mother to sing my praises. I needed her to stop pretending she wrote the song. And now I live my truth unapologetically. Loudly. Proudly. Because I am the woman she said would never make it. And every step I take forward leaves another echo in the silence they gave me. It would have been easier if she stayed away. After the event scandal, the lies, the phone call where I finally told her the truth, I thought my mother would do what she always did when exposed, retreat, sulk, simmer in silence. But this time, she wasn't willing to disappear. She showed up again. Not at my office. Not at my home. But at my grandmother's house. My dad's mother, the one person in the family who'd never treated me like an afterthought. Nana had always been my quiet protector. She was old-fashioned, sure, but she never dismissed me. She'd send me small notes in the mail even when I was in college. Always ended them with, "I see you, little star." That Saturday, Nana called me. "I don't want to be in the middle, baby," she said softly, "but your mother was here today. And she's saying things." "What kind of things?" "She told me you've been cruel. That you embarrassed the family to get even. That you're holding grudges that should have been let go." I closed my eyes. Of course she did. She said your father only has a job at your company because she asked you to show him pity. She's making herself the reason behind everything. I let out a breath and leaned back on my couch. "Did you believe her?" "Sweetheart," Nana said, her voice like a hug, "I've known your mother for 35 years. I can smell when she's cooking a story." That made me smile, if only for a second. But it also made something clear. She wasn't done. Not even close. I wanted to ignore her. I wanted to live my life and leave her spinning lies in the past. But when she used Nana, she crossed a line. So I paid her a visit. She was home alone when I arrived. The living room looked the same as it always had growing up. Immaculate, cold, and not meant to be lived in. She looked surprised to see me. "Alora," she said carefully. "Did you come to talk?" "No," I replied. "I came to warn you." She raised her eyebrows but didn't speak. "I don't care what you say about me to your friends or the church ladies," I continued. "But when you bring Nana into it, when you start rewriting the story to manipulate people who love me, that's war." Her expression flickered. "Don't act surprised," I said. "You've been trying to take credit for a life you didn't help build. You abandoned me emotionally. You ignored my efforts. And now that I've made something of myself, you want to rewrite the past so you can bask in the reflection." "That's not what I'm doing." "Yes, it is. And I'm telling you now, I will not allow it." Her voice hardened. "You've always been dramatic." I laughed. "And you've always been a fraud." She flinched. I walked toward the door. Before I left, I turned back. "Here's how this works from now on. You don't use my name. You don't post about me. You don't pretend to be part of my story. If you do, I'll go public. And I will burn your version of the truth to the ground." "You wouldn't dare." I gave her a long, cold look. "You think I've come this far to keep living in your shadow?" I left her standing there. Alone. Speechless. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. Because I didn't owe her my silence anymore. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No posts. No messages. No comments. I didn't trust it, but I didn't chase it either. I had a business to run, a team to lead, and a life to live. Then came the final play. I got an email from a local journalist. He was writing a profile on young African female founders changing the creative landscape, and wanted to include me. I agreed to a phone call. The interview was smooth. Until the last question. Your mother actually reached out, he said. She shared a beautiful story about how you used to design things on napkins as a child and how she always saved them. Would you mind if we included that? I nearly dropped the phone. She said what? She called you her little phoenix. Said she always knew you'd rise. It was really touching. I smiled so hard it hurt. Let me send you a few corrections before you publish. I hung up and typed out a statement so precise it could cut steel. I explained that while I had grown into my success through resilience and hard work, I'd done so in the absence of maternal support, not because of it. That any narrative of nurturing was false, and while I appreciated his work, I would not participate in a profile that misrepresented my truth. He was gracious. And he removed her quote. When the article went live, it was raw, honest, and powerful. It spoke of loneliness, of self-made grit, of the cost of being underestimated. And people loved it. The article blew up. My inbox overflowed. I got offers to speak at universities, panels, conferences. I was invited to mentor young girls in tech. And buried in all the praise were a few bitter notes. One from my mother. You made me look like a monster. I didn't reply. Because sometimes the truth doesn't need defending. It just needs to be heard. And in that moment, I knew. She could spin whatever story she wanted, but the world had finally heard mine. The invitation came in a gold-trimmed envelope, like something out of a wedding catalog. Formal, scripted, and drenched in the kind of elegance that only really tries to impress people who already know the truth. It was for my brother Jason's engagement party. I almost tossed it in the bin. But the return address caught my eye. My parents' house. Not a neutral venue. Not a rented hall. Their house. The same one where I spent my teenage years shrinking into corners. The same one I walked out of with a duffel bag and a full scholarship, leaving behind every half-spoken insult like a landmine I refused to carry. I hadn't been back since. I told myself it wasn't worth it. That I didn't owe anyone anything. That going would be opening a door I'd already shut and locked. But deep down, I also knew something else. If I didn't show up, she'd spin it. She'd tell every guest I was too busy, or ashamed of her family, or just so important now that she forgot where she came from. And I was tired of letting her control the narrative. So I RSVP'd. The night of the party, I wore navy blue silk. Not loud. Not flashy. Just strong. The kind of outfit you wear when you want to remind the room that you don't need to shout to be powerful. When I walked through the front door, time bent in strange ways. The hallway smelled the same. The furniture hadn't changed. Even the little framed portraits on the wall were untouched. Except now, for the first time ever, I was in one. One photo. One frame. Wedged between Jason's college graduation and Daniel's wedding. Progress? Or propaganda? Hard to say. Guests milled around, sipping wine, laughing, taking pictures in front of the flower wall someone had clearly spent too much money on. I spotted my brothers across the room, and to my surprise, both of them waved me over. Daniel hugged me. Jason looked nervous but smiled. You look rich, Jason joked. I am, I said deadpan. Then I smiled. They laughed. It was civil. Awkward. But real. Then she appeared. My mother. She walked toward me with that performative poise I remembered too well. Hair perfect. Earrings gleaming. Smile rehearsed. My daughter, she said, loud enough for guests nearby to hear. You came. Of course, I said. Wouldn't miss it. She leaned in like she was about to kiss my cheek. I stepped back. Her smile twitched, but she recovered. You've made quite the name for yourself lately, she said. You too, I said. Must be exhausting pretending you raised me. Her eyes flashed. Not here, she whispered. Exactly, I replied. Not here. So maybe stop performing and let Jason have his moment. She walked away. That was the first time I'd ever won a round with her in public. I mingled, I posed for a few pictures, and when dinner started, I took a seat at the end of the family table. Strategically far from her, but close enough to still count. During the toast, My father stood up. He looked older than I remembered. Smaller somehow. But his voice when it came was strong. To family, he said. To second chances. To the people we've hurt, and the ones who somehow still show up. He looked at me. I didn't smile. But I didn't look away. Later that night, as the party wound down, he found me on the back patio, away from the crowd. I wanted to say thank you, he said. For what? For not embarrassing us tonight. For being better than we were to you. I studied him. You've changed, I said. I'm trying. We stood in silence for a few seconds. I miss when you were small, he said suddenly. When you used to draw superheroes and pretend they lived in the attic. You'd bring me sketches and ask which one I wanted to be. You always said none of them looked like you. He chuckled sadly. They didn't. They looked like who I should have been. We didn't hug. That wasn't us. But I walked back inside with him, and that was enough. Just before I left, my mother approached me again. You're going to hold this against me forever, aren't you? She asked, arms crossed, eyes tired. No, I said. Just long enough to protect the version of me who didn't have anyone else. You think I didn't care? She snapped. I was hard on you because I thought that was what you needed. No, I said softly. You were hard on me because I didn't fit your idea of success. You didn't shape me. You tried to break me. She didn't reply. I made it despite you, I added. Not because of you. And with that, I turned and walked out of the house for the last time. No slamming doors. No screaming matches. Just peace. Controlled. Earned. Final. I don't know what kind of relationship we'll ever have, if any. But I've stopped waiting for apologies that won't come. I've stopped needing her to validate what I already know. That I wasn't the failure of the family. I was the blueprint. And now, they all know it too.